Today on the official Marvel podcast, we celebrate the premiere of Marvel Television's Ironheart with the series composer Dara Taylor and music supervisor Dave Jordan.
I don't think people are prepared for how big everything is about to get.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Hold on to your seats.
Plus, we'll run through our favorite sci-fi science moments of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And finally, LEGO's Jesper Nielsen and Disney's Jesse Falcon join us to share the latest on the LEGO Marvel Brickverse.
We did a great Daily Bugle. We got the Avengers Tower. We did the Sanctum Sanctorum. And if you're a builder at home, you can go ahead and make your Marvel version of New York City at your house.
I'm Evan Narcissus.
I'm Anthony Carboni.
And this is the official Marvel podcast.
The first 3 episodes of Marvel Television's Ironheart are out now, and I gotta say, I am very excited to dive into Riri Williams' corner of the MCU, Evan.
Yeah, Anthony, totally agree. I mean, it's been so long since we last saw her in Marvel Studios' Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and I love that we finally get to see Ironheart out on her own this time. The Wakanda support is cool, but this is like seeing Riri without those training wheels and coming into her own. Love that they shot so much in Chicago, a beautiful city with a great cinematic history, and just perfect for this character to see them in a more grounded kind of paradigm versus the more fantastical elements of Wakanda. So really, really great that she's finally getting to shine on her own.
Oh, totally. And you are not alone in thinking that way. According to Ironheart composer Dara Taylor and music supervisor Dave Jordan, after seeing Riri Williams' debut in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, they were also eager to see Riri's story continue.
I mean, I was introduced to her, with everyone else, I think, in Wakanda Forever. I knew of her, but it was fun to kind of see her on screen being effervescent and hilarious.
The minute you're introduced to her as a character, you're like, whoa, who is this powerhouse? She steals just about every scene she's in Wakanda. So it was, when they announced this project, it was obviously a no-brainer. Just her as a character, you're really interested. Like, I want to know much more about her.
Together, Dara and Dave worked to bring Riri's world to life by either composing original music for the series or finding the right songs to license for a particular scene, respectively. Here's Dara and Dave on how they decide on which is right for any given moment.
This show is a little unique in that there's a lot of moments in this show where it could be a song or it could be score. And so one of the reasons that we were so excited that Dara was going to come on was that she can do kind of full orchestra, kind of very classic Marvel sound, but she can also work across multiple genres. So it gave us an ability to kind of swap back and forth, like whether it was a song or score or something in the middle, like think instrumental track. That's something that Dara could do.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments where it was kind of in flux, where, maybe there was a song there initially that people were thinking about, and then, we'll kind of see what works the best for that moment. So yeah, there were definitely a few moments I can think of right now that, maybe initially were intended to be a song and then ended up being score or vice versa.
And also, a song obviously can draw emotion out, but depending on the length of the scene and the story we're trying to tell, Dara can help bring the emotion out of the scene that a song may not be able to do.
Yeah, there's definitely more flexibility in terms of, if we want to hit this certain moment and then quickly pivot things that, a song with its structure kind of built in may not be able to do.
For example, there's a scene that takes place in episode 3 where Riri and the Hood's crew infiltrate a greenhouse complex before the mission goes sideways. And according to Dara, the team went back and forth on their approach to scoring the heist.
And there were moments where, we were auditioning different songs, some things were working, but we really wanted to kind of up the scheming heist nature of it, and also kind of hit on different characters that are coming in. And, there are some storytelling moments in that sequence that we just felt were able to be hit on a little better with score. Those were moments where we really had to kind of bring up the energy. So it was score, but it was score plus, so it had a slightly different tone and kind of brought a different energy and swagger than other score moments were.
And those kind of moments also allow us to, which you can't do with the song, obviously, we get to reintroduce the theme or elements of the theme, and that cues the viewer that XYZ is maybe going to happen, either subconsciously or consciously.
So I love any time I'm able to reuse something or like kind of have a connection motivically.
And speaking of themes, here's what Dara had to say about building out the character themes for the show's lead protagonist, Riri Williams, as well as its antagonist, Parker Robbins, aka The Hood.
Yeah, so Riri has kind of two themes that work in tandem. So there is her emotional, kind of heroic, broad, melodic theme. It's big, it's marvelly, it's got, heroic elements and all of that. But then she also has this like kind of punchy, badass thing for when she wins. And it can have a lot of power behind it. So it's finding ways to, sometimes I strip the themes apart, sometimes I add them together depending on, her kind of salient emotion at that time. And then Parker / the Hood has his own theme as well. And it's a lot of going like from high to low, and there's a lot of kind of synthetic and kind of otherworldly sounds in it where you're not entirely sure what this is. And to me, that kind of signifies his like descent into madness. And then there's a corrupted violin motif that goes along with that. And then the crew has its own kind of motif as well, especially when they're doing heist things and talking about their heists. And it kind of stems from Parker's theme because they are, in a way, an extension of him, but it's a little more upbeat. It's not quite as evil.
Rounding out the sonic landscape in Ironheart is the city of Chicago itself. Here's Dara and Dave on how they tapped into the sound of the city.
So on this particular show, we knew we were going to do a clean break from Wakanda. We were going to go to Riri's world. There was a strong feeling that we should honor Chicago. So we very strongly went that direction. We went down a lot of different historical paths for Chicago. We did everything from Step was a really big one that we went down. Chicago House was a really big one. Juke was a really big one. And so when we started to put the songs in, we tried lots of different styles. We wanted to honor Chicago, Riri's world, which was like a little more street level, but she's also intellectual. And obviously her relationship with her mother. So we really wanted to also honor that she didn't just listen to whatever was on the radio at the time, because a lot of us grew up with listening to music that our parents would listen to. So that's where, the kind of the Shaka Khan and the Gil Scott-Heron came from, again, Chicago. But then we also did a lot of stuff that was much more localized. And so that's a bit how we approached it. It was a really, really fun show to work on because of that, to kind of pull a thread rather than just like, let's do hip hop. So we really wanted to honor Chicago, and we put a lot of local artists from Chicago and a lot of legacy artists from Chicago in it.
I think one of my favorite additions were the addition of bucket drums, which you'll hear more in episode 2, to kind of signify the Chicago of it all. And it's kind of, it's scrappy.
And they didn't stop there. They even went as far as featuring a performance from Chicago rapper Saba.
So Saba is a very big Chicago artist. He's a very influential Chicago artist. He's an incredibly credible Chicago artist. He gets praise from J. Cole and Kendrick. So he's in that real rarefied lane. So Saba was approached early to write a couple of songs, and then we shot it in Chicago. So he went and did it live. It was very guerrilla filmmaking the way we did it. That's why it looks so authentic and real. And he's fantastic.
And that's not the only Chicago artist that's featured in the score. Here's Dara on the inclusion of Gil Scott-Heron.
One of the reasons that I also feel so connected to Riri is she's dealing with the death of her father, and I lost my father a few years back. And Gil Scott-Heron was one of his favorites. So as soon as I heard that, I'm like, it's like a part of it's like, oh, he's with me in this moment, in this really important moment in my career. And it felt like, and you guys had no idea, but it was just really, it was special to me. So.
As for what Dara and Dave have planned for the second half of the series, well, I'll let them share.
Episode 6 gets weird, musically for me, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of like strange vocal things that have kind of been teased throughout the rest of the series, but you get to hear them full-throated, for lack of a better word. So yeah, it was a really fun episode. I mean, episode 5 is also crazy. So I mean. I don't think people are prepared for how big everything is about to get.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Hold on to your seats.
Yeah, weird in the best way, I should say.
Yes,
yes.
The first 3 episodes of Marvel Television's Ironheart are streaming now, only on Disney+. With the release of Ironheart, we've had a lot of the MCU's top scientists on our minds lately.
Totally. It's great to be able to see Riri Williams nerd out in her element, and it's wild that she is maybe the youngest of the many big brains in the MCU.
For sure. In the meantime, we thought it'd be fun to gather a compilation of the nerdiest sci-fi science moments in the MCU. Check it out.
Do you hear me? Is this on? Ladies and gentlemen, today we take not another step towards annihilation, but the first step on the path to peace. We begin with a series of micro-injections into the subject's major muscle groups. The serum infusion will cause immediate cellular change. And then, to stimulate growth, the subject will be saturated with vital rays.
The walls between worlds will be almost non-existent. Physics is going to go ballistic. Increases and decreases in gravity, spatial extrusions. The very fabric of reality is going to be torn apart.
40 years ago, I created a formula that altered atomic relative distance.
Huh?
I learned how to change the distance between atoms. That's what powers the suit. That's why it works.
Wow.
Call every lab you know. Tell them to put the spectrometers on the roof and calibrate them for gamma rays. I'll rough out a tracking algorithm, basic cluster recognition. At least we could rule out a few places. You have somewhere for me to work?
I use electromagnetic waves to stimulate their olfactory nerve center. I speak to them. I can go anywhere, hear anything, and see everything.
The nanites absorb the kinetic energy and hold it in place for redistribution.
Very nice.
It's quantum entanglement between the quantum states of Posner molecules in your brains.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
That's a quantum field generator, isn't it?
It's a soul forge.
Does the soul forge transfer molecular energy from one place to another?
Yes.
Quantum field generator.
It's the EPR paradox. Instead of pushing Lang through time, you might have wound up pushing time through Lang. It's tricky, dangerous. Somebody could have cautioned you against it.
Quantum phasing, when an object moves through different states of matter.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what I was thinking.
The lab emits radiation. Could we modify a quantum spectrometer and track it?
Whoa.
The structure is polymorphic.
Right, we had to attach each neuron non-sequentially.
Why didn't you just reprogram the synapses to work collectively?
Because we didn't think of it?
I'm sure you did your best.
Can you do it?
Yes, but there are more than 2 trillion neurons here. One misalignment could cause a cascade of circuit failures.
Jarvis, could you kindly vacuform a digital wireframe? I need a manipulatable projection.
What I'm saying is, time works differently in the quantum realm. The only problem is right now, we don't have a way to navigate it. But what if we did? I can't stop thinking about it. What if we could somehow control the chaos and we could navigate it? What if there was a way that we could enter the quantum realm at a certain point in time, but then exit the quantum realm at another point in time?
I'm thinking that our joint exposure to these unsteady jump points and our susceptibility to electromagnetic energy has temporarily entangled our world lines.
If we bypass their mainframe, a direct route to the Homer cluster, we can clock this at around 600 teraflops.
There's no possibility of deterioration. The nanomolecular functionality is instantaneous. His cells don't know they're bonding with simulacrum.
You might be able to improvise that tracker if you modify the diffraction units on one of your regulators.
A bit of mild inspiration. I'd like to see if it checks out. So I'd like to run one last sim before we pack it in for the night. This time in the shape of a Mobius strip, inverted, please.
Processing.
Right, give me the eigenvalue of that particle factoring in spectral decomp. That'll take a second.
Just a moment.
It means that you would enter a quantum realm.
What does that mean?
It means that you would enter a reality where all concepts of time and space become irrelevant as you shrink for all eternity.
Clint, now you're gonna feel a little discombobulated from the chrono shift. Don't worry about it.
Wait a second. Let me ask you something.
In an isolated system, particles coexist in a stable phase relationship. If the system is interfered with, that stability becomes chaos. Unpredictable. Dangerous. Beautiful. Isolated completely, a quantum system would revert back to separate states of matter, each entangled with a distinct state of its environment. In other words, the object in question would be both in and out of phase with multiple parallel realities.
I mean, after everything you've seen, is anything really Quantum fluctuation messes with the Planck scale, which then triggers the Deutsch proposition. Can we agree on that?
They call it molecular disequilibrium. A rather dull name, I think. Doesn't quite do justice to what it means. Every cell in my body is torn apart and stitched back together. Over and over every day.
He'd have to heat the cube to 120 million Kelvin just to break through the Coulomb barrier.
Unless Selvig has figured out how to stabilize the quantum tunneling effect.
Well, if he could do that, he could achieve heavy ion fusion at any reactor on the planet.
Finally, someone who speaks English.
Is that what just happened?
Marvel Studios Ant-Man, Marvel Studios Ant-Man and the Wasp, Marvel Studios Avengers, Marvel Studios Avengers Age of Ultron, Marvel Studios Avengers Infinity War, Marvel Studios Avengers Endgame, Marvel Studios Black Panther, Marvel Studios Captain America The First Avenger, Marvel Studios Iron Man 2, Marvel Studios The Marvels, and Marvel Studios Thor The Dark World are all streaming on Disney+.
Anthony, I know the answer to this question, but let me ask it for the listeners out there. Are you a fan of LEGO?
Thank you so much for asking, Evan. As a matter of fact, I am a fan of LEGO. That's crazy that you would bring this up.
Favorite sets? Like, I know you've got to have like the Avengers Tower and Daily Bugle sets, but like, what's an outlier for you?
Listen, I'll tell you this. We know that amongst everyone here on the podcast, I am not even the biggest X-Men guy, by far. I might be the least X-Men of everybody on the podcast. I want that X-Mansion so bad. That X-Mansion is such a good Lego set. I want that, and I want the Sanctum Sanctorum, and I want a larger apartment.
I thought the larger apartment part was a Lego set. He's like, no, I need bigger living space IRL to put all this stuff. Yeah, I feel you.
They're big sets. And so every time I do this, I have to think very, very carefully.
That's amazing. You know, there's so many sets that are based on Marvel characters. But did you know that each of these Lego sets share a universe known as the Brickverse?
Huh.
Here to tell us more about this initiative is friend and fellow official Marvel podcast host Ray Lowe, as she's joined by LEGO creative lead and senior design manager Jesper Nielsen and Disney director of product design Jesse Falcon.
I'm joined by Jesper Nielsen and Jesse Falcon. Thanks so much for chatting with us, guys. Can you introduce yourselves to our listeners and tell them a little bit about what you do?
My name is Jesper. I work for the LEGO company, and there's a ton of us working actually to create toys for everyone. So we're trying to do something that would fit for every single fan of Marvel.
Hi there, my name is Jesse Falcon. I have the great pleasure of working on Marvel in the 20th century, but the even greater pleasure of working with Jesper and the LEGO company to make joy. It's so exciting to be here and talk to you guys about it.
Well, LEGO and Marvel obviously have a very long relationship together. Can you guys just kind of, talk about the existing relationship y'all already have with one another and maybe how the two of you work together as well?
We work together in the way that we are pitching actually both ways. So at times, ideas will come from Marvel to us, and then we're trying to figure out how do we translate this into LEGO form. And at times, it's the other way around, that we're taking a starting point is what is a great toy or what is a great experience that we're trying to translate into something that makes sense for LEGO and for Marvel.
Honestly, like it is a joyous partnership. It really is. The Lego team and Jesper and his whole crew of master builders are some of the greatest idea people working in the toy industry ever. And it honestly, it is just so fun. I think that is the first thing that I would have to describe. The first word I would like, it is a joy to work. I do not feel, I've been doing this for 31 years, and it does not feel like I've really had one day of actual work. Like I've just been playing for 30 odd years. That's just like, that's not fair. But that's just like, that's how great Jesper and the Lego team have made this relationship. It's really a best in class of all the things that we get to do across the board.
Let's talk about the Marvel Brickverse. Jesse, give us, I guess, a rundown of the Marvel Brickverse and maybe what the origins of the Marvel Brickverse initiative are as well.
The idea of the Brickverse is that it's a universe that you can build, play in, and control. The coolest thing about Marvel is the storytelling. The Marvel team are master storytellers, and the Lego team have built over 100 years this incredible play ability with this fluid building pattern, whereby Jesper and his team of master builders can make an amazing set, whether it's the Marvel logo or something from Endgame or something from the Spider-Man movies, and contextualize that, and you learn how to build it from the instructions, and you make that and you put it on your shelf or you play with it. But the coolest thing about what Lego has that nobody else does is the ability to take that set and combine it with all your other Legos and retell a story the way that you want to do it. And that's really what the genesis of the Brickverse is. It's an idea of storytelling that allows the kids or the kids of any age to command that story through the Marvel Brickverse.
Marvel is about superpowers, right? It's about being both human and superhuman at the same time. And I think imagination and the storytelling is the true superpower actually that Marvel brings to Lego products. And I think that that's probably what we are trying to emphasize here by going even broader. So you can say Brickverse is a celebration of imagination and creativity, and it's the happy marriage of storytelling and toy.
I do want to go back then and touch on your process of, I guess, designing a Marvel Lego set. When actually building out the set itself, how early does the design process for a new set begin?
It depends what it is. Some things take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
For most of the things, you could say that what we call the M phase, so the maturing phase, is 3 months. And that's when we're sprinting to get everything ready for production and making sure that everything is right for packaging, and making sure that we are aligned with Jesse and with whoever he aligns with on his side. So we are doing something that represents Marvel right. And that takes 3 months. And then you can say, depending on what the set is, there's another 3 months. And if it's an even bigger set, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. It depends a lot.
Well, Jesper, what is your personal favorite part of the process? Because I imagine the whole thing's fun for you.
I really like when we hit something that we almost can't do. And that's probably the one thing I've learned from my time in Lego is that if people are saying that it's not possible or it's only possible in this way, then it might be right that it's difficult. Most times it's possible. And I'm 100% sure it's also possible in a different way. We might not have time. There might be another reason why we can't, but it's always possible to actually literally take the bricks apart and build something else.
I like this lack of limitation. Now I feel like this is like a spiritual guidance for how I should live my life too, Jesper.
Know that when you break something down, it can be rebuilt.
I like the zen of Lego. I think that there's something to that,
Absolutely.
Ray. I think that's really, really cool. Marvel's rollout for all the things that they're doing between movies and video games and comic books and TV shows and the live events and like Marvel is just a 360 brand from a standpoint of content. So a lot of what Jesper and I have to do is like, well, what are our priorities? Where do we really want to sink in and lean into things? And then how do we get there? And like one of the biggest joys for me, and I'm sure Jesper, I've said this to him before, but I think he reciprocates this, is when you're at like a mall or an airport and a kid has something that you've worked on and they're white knuckling it, and it's like you can tell how much they're loving it, and that's very satisfying. That joy, that excitement, that engagement is really why that's the whole point of it, and that's also why Brickverse came to be because this is going to be a large campaign that we're going to have at the end of this year that will go on past that. That'll celebrate everything that we're doing with Marvel, tie it all together. We have a lot of really cool things that we're going to be doing.
Okay, I have to go back though, because you guys are Comic-Cons, you guys interact with the fans a lot, and we're talking about the mishmash of what you can build with your Lego sets, the creativity behind it. One of the most fun things is obviously seeing what these Lego builders can do themselves. Are there any fun creative approaches you've seen fans take specifically with Marvel Lego?
It always amazes me, the effort people put into actually display what it is their heart is invested in. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that. And you say there's a ton of huge environments that are built out by fans. I love that. I absolutely love that. And you say a lot of them has been building out stuff like huge New York settings. And to some extent, we are getting there also in the play version of it now, where we're trying to make it possible for kids and adults to actually build out the world of Lego. So you can build out a full street for Spider-Man. You can have him swinging from one building to the other. And I think we'll get there.
And look, and you could do that now. Like right today, if you're a builder at home and you have sets and you want to build that, you can go ahead and do that. Make your Marvel version of New York City at your house. We did a great Daily Bugle. We got the Avengers Tower. We did the Sanctum Sanctorum. And I have my list of things. You know, I have a giant deck of things that we've shared and we've talked about. And I think that, you know, that is the exciting thing about us. Is what are we going to do next?
Well, Jesse, what can we expect next, I guess, for LEGO Marvel Brickverse?
So we have some stuff that is in pipeline that we're going to be putting out there pretty soon that'll help support the Brickverse. We have a great, huge ad campaign that'll come out for this year, and we're just looking at how we're going to be rolling that into 2026. So this one's a little different because it's not just going to be something that we'll celebrate over 1 year. It's really going to last for a longer time.
Jesper and Jesse, thank you as a Marvel fan and Lego fan for usually making all of our dreams come true. My Avengers Tower is sitting over there.
Ah!
Awesome.
All right, well, thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, Ray.
See you.
In 2021's Marvel's Voices Pride #1, writer Anthony Oliveira explored the past of one of the X-Men's most iconic heroes, Iceman, in his short story Early Thaw. In it, he revisits Iceman, aka Bobby Drake, during his early years as an X-Man living in Xavier's mansion. The story opens with Bobby helping his teammate Angel tuck his wings under his clothing to hide his identity as a mutant from humanity. When Bobby asks him why he does this, Angel claims that, despite not being the most comfortable, it's worth it since, in his words, the world isn't ready. As the story progresses, we watch as a young Bobby struggles with this idea, but not necessarily for the same reason. It all comes to a head when Magneto, the X-Men's biggest rival, descends on Xavier's mansion, but he rethinks his impending attack when he notices Bobby alone, crying on the school grounds. Magneto approaches him cautiously to see what's going on. Bobby responds tearfully that he's different, that he's got this secret, and it's not safe. He mumbles about his affection for his teammate Angel, and before he can continue, Magneto takes his helmet off and sits down next to Iceman, offering him the following. I have been different my whole life, child. Not like, well, but it's a thorny and lonely road to walk, especially for the young. We differ in methods, and it will never be safe. It never is. But we will make a better future, a future less lonely for the different. We will make a brave new world. I promise you that.
Next week on the official Marvel podcast, we continue our coverage of Marvel Television's Ironheart as we hear from the cast of the series, including Dominique Thorne and Anthony Ramos.
That's all for today. Make sure to leave a comment, rating, or review wherever you're listening to us right now.
This episode was hosted by Evan Narcissus and me, Anthony Carboni, featuring Ray Lowe.
Our producers are Jasmine Estrada and Anita Flores.
Thanks to our Senior Manager of Audio Production and Development, Brad Barton, and Production Manager, Emily Godfrey.
Mixed by Emma Munger.
Theme music by Ida Akbal.
Executive producers are Larissa Rosen and Jesse Berker.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.